Hey, and we are the Coalition, as always, loud and proud. We're on the road today, again at Brewed Awakenings. We're visiting a different branch. We're down on Bald Hill Road in Warwick, Rhode Island. Beautiful facility. Full disclosure, the owner, Dave Levesque, who's joining us, has allowed us to use a conference room here on a number of occasions for a variety of events. But you've got everything here you could ever need. A full bar, dining experience, beautiful pastries, coffee, a conference room for meeting, and just there's a lot of nooks and crannies to this space. So there's a lot of privacy, or you can have a group of friends come in. So, of course, let's get to the issue of the day. The last couple of days have been sort of a revelation with regard to the state of Rhode Island. If you witnessed the press conference yesterday, or if you watched the little clip that we're sending around with one of Dave's emails, you got a sense that despite the state not wanting me to explain everything to them in my question, they simply ignored the issues, well, as they often do when I ask questions. But today's not about me. I wanted to reach out to Dave. Dave's done yeoman's work here on behalf of dozens and dozens of independent restaurants that he's reached out to. Part of the, I'll call it the independent restaurant family here in Rhode Island. As I've gotten to know folks in this industry, because I've never worked in a restaurant before. I've spent a lot of time in them, obviously, but I've never worked in one before. I wasn't aware of the community spirit and the closeness of folks who compete for a limited consumer dollar. It's fascinating to watch, and quite frankly, it's uplifting, because folks of a variety of different businesses have gotten together to try and figure out how to solve this unemployment, underemployment crisis. Dave, all right, so why don't you review the facts and just give us how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm feeling deflated, number one. Two, the facts are that you have literally hundreds and hundreds of restaurants, and even more than restaurants, looking for tens of thousands of workers in the state of Rhode Island. And we have some 40,000 people sitting on the sideline extra in DLT that are not working. And the overcompensation from the Fed has caused that problem. There was a good intended bill at the beginning to pay people, but now that there are jobs, people need to go back to work. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. As you heard yesterday from Dan McKee, he wants to milk the Fed for whatever he can and let the people collect the 300. To me, if there were no jobs, yeah, that would make sense. But when there are jobs out there, that's not a common sense thing to do. We should be forcing people back to work. The people that have the ability to go back to work should go back to work. And yesterday announcing at the press conference that in 2 weeks, we're going to start to tell people to go look for a job. They should try to get a job. Doesn't mean they're going to have a job or they're going to want to take a job. On top of that, DLT is only telling people that they got to keep in charge of their own paperwork. So you hold on to your own paperwork and who you're going to look for or where you're going to go to apply. And if we happen to contact you, you need to have a response. And even that's going to take more time. Unfortunately, right now, DLT is telling you they don't have their own time or the ability to take care of the phone calls that are coming in. They don't have the ability to take care of all the fraud that's taking place over there. So now all of a sudden we're going to add this component where they're going to we'll find the time to follow up on some extra 40,000 people sitting on the sideline. It's not reality. It's not going to happen. And the bill that they're trying to support, which is Bill 6249 by Carol McEntee, is not going to generate any jobs. That program now, as it sits under DLT, has more than a 90% opt-out rate. And that's because either the employee or the unemployed person on unemployment doesn't want to opt in for it, and or the business won't use it. Basically, their plan to change that and to say that, hey, if you're collecting 300, now you can go earn 50% of what you collect and still collect the 300 Fed money, means that that worker making $15 an hour is only available for 10 hours to go to work. There's no restaurant in the state of Rhode Island that's going to invest their time and training into getting somebody to come into work that can work limited hours, that won't work extra hours, because if they do, they lose their unemployment for 10 hours and make $750. At the same point, how do you explain that to your existing workers that Tom or Sally that just took a job with you can only work 10 hours and you got to bust your tail for 40, and they can't stay and help you, because if they do, DLT will punish them and take away their unemployment. So that bill's not going to work. Could that bill be a supplement to help? Yep. Matt's own words to me Wednesday, the day before the press conference, was, well, if we get 1,000 people back to work, at least it's something. Not true. We don't need 1,000 people back to work. We need 10,000 people in the restaurant industry alone, never mind all the other businesses. I just talked with a business owner over here a few moments ago that employs over 1,000 people. He needs 300 plus, and he can't get them. So 1,000 people under DLT that Matt's offering up under this program is a complete failure. It's not going to work. Why they don't want to support Bill 6218 is besides me. We shouldn't have to pay anybody to go back to work. If anything, DLT should be told, okay, tomorrow start enforcing. We could take that Crush COVID app and turn it into Crush Unemployment app. You know, what do we pay for that thing under Gina Raimondo? A huge amount of money. How about we use that? We can tell you that there are dozens of restaurants that need bartenders. If somebody's sitting on the sideline and they have a bartending skill, DLT should be able to match that person up and say, okay, pick your job, let's go. And the same thing for every single other job that's out there. There's no reason why we don't put people back to work, and immediately. Them telling us it's going to start in 2 weeks. Let's think back a little bit. When this whole piece happened a long time ago, we just got to slow the curve. We just need a few weeks to slow the curve. Then we went months and months and months. Then we had from Gina, in 2 weeks, remember that, those words, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a pause for 2 weeks. Well, as soon as she opened up her mouth, restaurants lost reservations like you could not imagine. It started immediately. That didn't even last for 2 weeks. And here we are again. In 2 weeks, we're going to tell DLT to start enforcing. And then maybe in a few weeks, DLT starts to do the enforcing. And then maybe after arguing back and forth, a few weeks later, maybe something happens. What are we talking about? July? Can we still have people on unemployment? You got restaurants that need people like oxygen in order to survive. I'm thrilled the governor came out and mentioned go support restaurants on Mother's Day. I was in my office, and when he announced that, I let out the largest screams you could possibly imagine. It was awesome. But you didn't push the people off of unemployment so the restaurants and other businesses could survive. This isn't where we're trying to name a street and we can put it off. We want to put a street name on somebody, and it's going to take weeks or months. This is for businesses to survive. And the jobs are out there. There's no reason that we have DLT blowing up to almost 70,000 people at this current time.
How do you feel the reception you're getting from other retail business owners? Because remember, it's Rhode Island restaurants are national sport here. You know, we follow restaurants and politics obsessively, but there's an entirely different side of the retail sector that is suffering the same issues. Now compare the reception your idea is getting from individual business owners, restaurant or otherwise, and say members, highly placed members of the McKee administration. What's their reception?
Well, outside of the business owners, and we all agree that we shouldn't have to pay people to go back to work when there's a valuable or a job opportunity. But given that we got to compete with the Fed, offering the 300 to get them off of the couch and back into the workforce, everybody agrees that I talk to, for the most part, at least it's the best option that we have. So the support is enormous. The communication is enormous. But am I getting that from the governor's office? No, I'm not. I'm getting we want to talk, we're thinking about it, we got a lot of things in the works, and then here you go, weeks and weeks and weeks go by. This is a stall tactic. We're just going to put off and put off and put off and put off. It's all about the money. It's all about getting reelected. Listen, I know it's not easy. I know he's working his tail off up there. I get it. But this is a real life issue. Restaurants are really struggling right now. We're at Mother's Day. The calls that I get from just a few people I deal with, a few restaurant owners that I deal with, is enormous about they don't have the people to support for Mother's Day, the business coming through. We don't have the people that we need in to support the business that's coming through. We have to shut DoorDash down. We got to shut Grubhub down. We have to throttle the drive-thru. Our Johnson store closes early every day at 3 o'clock. Cherry Hill and Cranston close early every day at 5 o'clock. This store right here, Warwick, which also used to be open till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and have just as many people in it as we do now here, closes every day at 6 o'clock.
Now, there are folks out there who are going to point to the restaurant community and large operators, and they might not be as sympathetic. But what is this going to mean to the employment market if restaurants shutter or permanently reduce their opportunities? And what is this going to mean to people who sit on the sidelines and then are looking for work opportunities 6 months or a year from now when finally the federal benefits come to an end and we need to return to work?
Well, I'll tell you from my own experience. Once we got through the beginning of the pandemic, which everybody had to buckle down and figure out how to navigate the terrain, we had an opportunity where we were moving one of our other locations down in South County, which was around for 17 years. And we had to pull out of that operation, shut that store down, and we lost a vital business of our own. So what did that cost us? 30 plus jobs at that store. It cost us growth, construction money. So you're going to see not only us, we're contracting, we're doing less hours, less sales, we're employing less people. So that's going to continue to happen in a lot of the restaurant industries. There'll be a lot of restaurants that don't come through this. There'll be a lot of restaurants that have to adapt and figure out different ways in order to, tread the terrain. Shorter hours, different days, maybe only takeout. We're talking to some pizza people now. They're like, why do I ever want to have anybody come in? Now I have to worry about a waitress or somebody else clearing tables. We'll just do the takeout. So these businesses will adapt. They're not going to adapt to hire more people. They're going to adapt to hire less people and figure out how to get through it. And this is what they don't get over there. This was the perfect opportunity, and it still is, where the governor could come out and say, back to work, not in 2 weeks, right now, today. It's Friday. We do it right now, today. We need people right now. Give an incentive today, get people back to work, save the industry. Not in 2 weeks, when we talk about it in 2 weeks, and then we're going to set up a committee to talk about it, and another committee, and we're going to fund a program with more money that doesn't work in its existence right now.
There is an entire industry, if you will, of highly compensated business leaders in the state who allegedly run advocacy groups on behalf of whatever industry niche they choose. And I guess I'm talking about what I'm going to affectionately refer to going forward as Big Chamber of Commerce. And that also includes organizations like the Rhode Island Hospitality Association. We've had some conversations about Rhode Island Hospitality Association, but are you getting support from any of these big, I'll call them Big Chamber of Commerce's, big trade organizations? Are they getting their hands dirty at all in this?
Well, there's two questions you asked. Are they getting their hands dirty? I'm sure they are. I know there's things that all of them are doing behind the scene, quietly talking to people, and stuff comes from that. I mean, people receive, heaters and blankets and a lot of other little things and some grant money. So there has been things that have come through it from those organizations. But do I think these organizations are doing the things that they should be doing in order to really push and get done what needs to get done? No, not in my opinion. I mean, I'll give you the Hospitality Association for one. I don't belong to them. I'm not a member, and I choose not to be, and I won't be. But I've reached out to them several times. One, before I met with the governor, I reached out to them to be part of the meeting. No response. I've also reached out with them to get support on our bill. We sent emails, we made calls, we sent text messages, not a single response. I can tell you Bill 6218 was not only good for the group of people that I deal with, but it was extremely good for the group of people that pay the membership that the Hospitality Association receives from them. So why are they not supporting it? Many reasons. One, they collect money from the state. Two, they don't want to get involved because I'm involved. There's many, many reasons. So, is it good that they do some things? Absolutely. Is it good that they get a great organization that can get you literature or training? Absolutely. But the leadership there, in my opinion, should be much more vocal, should have done much more during the time of what has been the most crucial time in the restaurant industry we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And it's not there. And to choose not to support this bill 6218 given it was the really only option unless someone's come up with another one, out of principle or whatever, is telling me that they totally let down their membership. Their restaurants, more than the people that I deal with, are suffering. And that's why you see people peeling away. Do I think some of these people are overpaid? You bet your ass I do. If you're going to do your job and you're going to take the kind of money that they do at these organizations, then you should be out there screaming it on the front line. Look at the meeting that we had on the House side. The Hospitality Association showed up. They were ill-prepared. They had 3 or 4 or 5 people, which I think most of them were from the association as part of the group in the leadership. But very few people to speak on them and support on behalf. They basically railed off names off a piece of paper, people that were supporting them, which clearly was not the case because those people were supporting us. We showed up and had 20 plus people speak. Enormous amount of testimony. We understood both bills. They didn't even understand what their bill does. So do I think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing at this point? No, not given what the restaurants and hospitality community needs right now. They're not stepping up to the plate and doing it, and it's a shame.
One of the fascinating aspects of this entire unfortunate series of events, if I can steal that for a moment, is in this case you had business leaders, stakeholders as the government types would call them, investors, folks who have a real place in the community, people who employ in the aggregate tens of thousands of Rhode Islanders, come together and blend their subject matter expertise into working legislation. I'm going to ask you, do you get the sense that since and this is a blanket statement, that may be unfair, but in a real sense, because there wasn't a pride of ownership by certain government types, that this bill almost had no chance, that it didn't come from them, it came from subject matter experts, people who run multi-million-dollar enterprises, that cast a spell on it?
Well, I will tell you, I had multiple people call me. It's not hearsay, it's direct. Call me and tell me they were not supporting this bill and it was dead on arrival just because of a sponsorship. That's ridiculous. Those people shouldn't even be in politics. Those people should be thrown out immediately. We should support any bill because it's good, because of its merit, not because of who's the sponsor. That's the problem that we have in government. You got people up there, and there are some good ones, but we got a lot of people up there that don't belong up there, that aren't doing what they should be doing, which is right for the people. So, yeah, it's a shame.
And what does that speak to if you're an investor in a business, an owner? And I want to clarify that, because when you talk about investor, it sounds like you're disassociated from the business. It sounds you're that guy twirling his mustache, just raking in the dough. But I often refer to Brewed as a 20-year plus overnight success. It's become very visible in the last couple of years, but the build-up to this was long and detailed, enormous amounts of risk capital. And let me explain that. When I say risk capital, that means if it doesn't work, the risk he took, whether it be Dave or any one of the owners that we've spoken to or any other business person out there at any level, they lose their capital. They lose their money. They lose their investment. There's years of sweat equity put into these businesses, from the big to the small. Instead of earning our respect in the community for the integral role they play in making Rhode Island what it is, can you expect business owners going forward, given their treatment on this legislation, to be so proactive?
Well, they should be proactive, but you're right. The businesses do invest and take the risk. And without the businesses, there is no success. You can't fund your social programs. You can't build your roads and bridges. You can't invest in your schools. You need the businesses in order to do it. We take the risk and the liability. We try to build businesses and employ and hire people. Government should be there to step up and support that, not be there to be, the nanny or the parent to cushion everybody to stay on unemployment and
A case could be made in the early months of the pandemic for this type of confusion, this type of chaos. I think it's fair to say none of us really knew what we were dealing with. Has that long since passed, though?
Yeah, I will tell you, in the beginning of this, not only me, but everybody that I talked to in the first 2 or 3 months gave Gina Raimondo an A+ for what she was doing and how she handled it. And we also think other people up in the Fed also did the same thing. Everybody pulled together. You did what you had to do without knowing what was going on. But once we got out of that, it then became about the money. It became about the control. We also had Dan McKee was one of the shining lights that we all listened to every single week, believed in. He's the business guy. He's the guy that's going to help us. And he never got any support from Gina. Didn't even get an acknowledgement of a meeting. Basically had the door shut on him. We truly expected when he got in there, he was going to be the guy to help us get this thing done and move forward in our industry. And once again, I'm not going to say the guy's not working hard. I know he is, and I know it's not easy sitting on this side of the camera. But this particular situation where we need workers and they're sitting on the sideline, this should have been dealt with weeks, if not months ago, and we should not be in this problem right now. And it hasn't been. And to play the political arena and just worry about getting elected should not be taking place at this time. We should be thinking about what's the right thing to do. And by God, if you do the right thing and you don't get elected, so be it. You did the right thing. But if you don't do the right thing and you focus on getting elected, and we suffer now like we are in this community, and we don't have the people in these restaurants in order to do the work that's got to be done, you will see, guys, you're going to see your local restaurant that you like to go to either not open as frequent or not be there. That's not going to help us pull out of this in the long term for unemployment. And when the Fed money's no longer there, what are you going to do when unemployment rises, when there aren't real jobs? Because when there was the opportunity to create them, you actually stifled it. You didn't let the businesses do what they needed to do. So that's where the real problem comes in. Listen, you already see the unemployment fund down to what, $100 and some odd million. It's only a matter of time where you run out of money and now we start taxing the businesses because we have to pay that fund back again. Businesses are already taxed right now. What more? You gonna add more tax on them?
Listen, in closing, it's 10 o'clock on a Friday morning. The joint is jumping. It's literally jumping. We've had the camera facing not only Dave, but the front door, and you've seen a steady stream of people coming in. Rhode Islanders are coming out, if you will. Rhode Islanders are desperate to embrace the Rhode Island lifestyle. Quite frankly, part of it is going to Brewed Awakenings on a weekday morning, taking a meeting, having a cup of coffee, studying for that final exam. Any one of 100 reasons. Maybe it's a mom who's just finally getting a little bit of a break this weekend from the kiddos. Dad's taking her so she can go out and have a cup of coffee with her friends. It could be 1,000 reasons. But how deep will the irony be if that businesses like Brewed, and we've interviewed a dozen of them, managed to survive the worst health crisis in recent American history, only to stumble, and in some cases, probably won't happen at Brewed, but in some cases ultimately fall because we weren't prepared for the aftermath. And it really comes down to that, isn't it? Just having been preparation, an assessment of what the business community's needs were going to be, and just follow through on that. This shouldn't be rocket science, is it?
It's not rocket science, it's science. And what baffles me is that the solution is right here. It's literally right in front of us. All you got to do is turn off the spigot and get people off unemployment today. This is Friday. I'm not talking about Saturday or Sunday. I mean today, right now. Make a change today and get people off unemployment. If you do it, you can help the restaurant industry and all the other businesses survive. It's here. It's not in 2 weeks. It's not 2 weeks after. It's right now. So the solution is here. If you can take advantage of that right now, you have the opportunity to come out looking like a national hero, not only a local hero. But you can't continue to wait. That's the problem. It's 2 weeks. It's postponed. It's put off. It's committee. It's meeting. It's right now.
Tomorrow is Mother's Day. Will this location be open all weekend? This is your
We are, but unlike most restaurants, even though we're a restaurant now, we don't take reservations. So most holidays we slow down. We're less busy. So we won't be as busy tomorrow. We'll still have a great day, but we won't be like a regular restaurant. You know, restaurants that normally might have 50, 60, or 100 covers, now all of a sudden they get, 250, 300. I talked to one restaurant, they had some 600 covers, but they don't have enough staff in order to run it. They're trying to figure out how they throttle, how they get prepared. Everybody's limiting menus, bringing it down. So now you're going to go to your restaurants, you're going to have limited menus, you're going to have slower service. In some cases, you might not even get the product that you expected to get from those restaurants. We can't blame the restaurant owners. If there's anything anybody gets out of this, because of the lack of changes that have been made over the last few weeks, we cannot blame the restaurant owners that are out there now if there's a problem. Everybody that's in this industry is trying as hard as they possibly can to survive and deliver the best possible product. But without the proper staffing, it's not physically possible. So you're going to have those delayed times. You're going to have the times where you don't get your product as warm as it should, or you don't get that extra drink or that cozy service. It's not their fault. It's the people sitting on the sideline, and it's our local government that's allowing that to happen. This is not a new problem. It's not like we just opened up the door last Thursday and we found out that we got an employee shortage. We knew we weren't getting the people from the outside coming in from the J1 visa and the H other program, whatever H2 program, whatever those other programs are. So we got a shortage of people there. We got an extra close to 40,000 people sitting on the sideline. It's not the problem of the restaurant owners or the people that are working in the restaurants. Let me just tell you, our employees in every other restaurant, they're bending over backwards. People are doing 6, 7 days. People are doing 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Everybody's trying. But without that human capital, that human resource coming off of unemployment, none of us can make it work. It's physically impossible to do it the way we've been trying to do, the way we have worked out our entire life in our industries to help build our businesses and set them up. The plans and the procedures and the support we put there can't be there if we don't have the people. So I pleaded with the governor, I pleaded with Matt from DLT to support this bill, put it through. They don't have to support any bill. Forget about waiting for Bill 6249 and 6218, according to the governor yesterday, is totally dead. Forget about all of them. Today, get people off unemployment. That solves the problem.
Am I exaggerating when I was saying that the potential loss to Rhode Island businesses this weekend, because it's Mother's Day, is in the millions of dollars?
It's going to be in the millions. It's going to be really in the millions. It's the tax revenue that's going to be lost. Think about this. You're going to lose out on sales tax. You already are. You got businesses that are not, fighting at high capacity or what they should be doing. So you lose out on sales tax revenue. That doesn't only go to the state. That also goes to the towns, whether it's Warwick, Cranston, Johnston. They lose out on that 1% from the food and beverage tax that gets put in. So there's a major expense. You also lose out on all the tax that comes out of the revenue that's generated for the employees. That's missed. So we're not generating the tax to go to the state and towns in order to fund our programs, yet we got people sitting on unemployment taking money out of the fund. So we drain the funds, or then we'll have to tax the businesses again, and we're not generating the revenue which helps keep the state going and the cities and towns going. So yeah, it's in the millions. It's extremely high, and people, I know everybody gets it, but until someone that wants to be a leader and step up to make the change, like I said in that email that you posted, Pep, as restaurants now, we got to do what we got to do in order to survive. We've been let down, we've been abandoned, and this problem has been going on for a while, and the administration and the people up there on the state level have not corrected the problem as quickly as they should have. If they were paying the check out of their own pocket, they'd be doing it differently. If they were taking in the personal sacrifice and losing their money, losing their value, if their bank accounts were dwindling, if they were losing their support, if their checks were lower or slower to come in, you'd see a whole different change on what would happen. So, are we going to see leadership? I've decided that I'm not going to bet on that one, and that's why I sent out that email to the group of people that I do business with. And that's it.
No, I understand. Just tell folks what's going on at Brewed, a couple where your locations are, and what they can expect from the Brewed Awakenings experience.
Well, we have 4 locations now that are open, 2 in Johnston, 1 in Cranston, 1 in Warwick. Brewed Awakenings is just a nice, comfortable place to come hang out, do exactly what we're doing here, close a business deal, meet with friends. We're open now, we're open all day up until about 5 o'clock on average. And we have sandwiches, fruit smoothies, drinks, breakfast sandwiches, pizzas, wings, nachos, stuff like that. So, I mean, we're a pretty cool place to hang out. It's more of a nice, casual, comfortable neighborhood hangout place. But I will tell you, forget about Brewed Awakenings. I think you guys need to go out and support your other small local restaurants. And try to do it at odd times. Don't go at peak times. These guys are overwhelmed. So if you go at dinner time, it just makes it harder. Go off times. Go support your local restaurants. Give them a hand. If they're backed up, jump in, clear the table, do some dishes, do whatever you got to do. Listen, on the way in, I drove in, I said, I'm going to call at least 2 or 3 of my restaurant friends and say, you know what, let me give you a couple hours to help out. If everybody does that as a restaurant community, we can stick together and survive. But we cannot rely on the organizations or the government at this point because they have not shown us they're willing to do exactly what it takes. So it's up to you, the people, and it's up to us, the business people, to stick together and unite, and let's just make it work. We're going to get through it, there's no doubt. But we're going to get through it because we're going to make the change.
Excellent. Dave Levesque, Brewed Awakenings. I'm down in their Warwick store on Bald Hill Road. You can see the joint is jumping. Again, it's a little after 10 on a Friday morning. It's a beautiful day out, and people are choosing to spend their mornings here. Congratulations on everything you've done, not just for your own business, but how you've extended yourself for the entire Rhode Island community. And folks, listen, reach out, politely call your legislator, send them an email, reach out to your community, tell people it's time for Rhode Island to get back to work. Let's get government out of the way, and let's get Rhode Island back. We've talked about it so many times. You know, that kind of wonderful, crazy, quirky place that's, quite frankly, is surrounded by our restaurant community. Signing off now. Listen, we are The Coalition, as always, loud and proud. Like us at facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_Radio. If you follow our links to our YouTube page, where you'll see videos of, well, this and the governor and et al., just take a moment and subscribe. It really helps out. Have a wonderful afternoon. If we don't speak, you don't hear from me before then, have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. Good day.